want to get to the end of that journey and be looking at your family on your deathbed with regret in your eyes. You want to be looking at them at the end of that journey with joy in your eyes, with, if I thought it, I tried it. I lived according to the way I wanted to be living. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship.
Hey, everybody, like what you see, Luxe Life with Candice Bar or any of the Luxe Media Studios shows, make sure you subscribe and click the like below. Hey, everybody, welcome to Luxe Life. I'm your host, Candice Bar, and we are so excited for today. We are blessed to have the most amazing entrepreneurs on the show, the most amazing celebrities, most amazing people coming in with their journey, their story, their tips and tricks on life, and just, information for you to take away and move through your life in a positive way. So we are blessed to have Rodman Schley with us today.
You nailed it.
I had to think about that for a second.
It's the hardest name in the industry. Oh, it's such a pleasure to be on. I love, number one, getting on these podcasts because there's so much that we can all learn from getting in these rooms together and really talking about business and entrepreneurship. Yeah. So this is perfect. I'm so glad that you're giving your listeners this gift of this information.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was blessed enough to be on your show, which I'm excited to see that. And your show is amazing. We love your show. And we'll put your show's link below when we're done so they can check that out as well.
Love it.
So let's get into it. The best place to start is always the beginning. Where are you from?
I'm from Denver, Colorado, but I grew up in rural Nebraska. I was a small town Nebraska boy who's kind of always had a place in Nebraska. So ended up in Denver, Colorado, and absolutely been here since '98, and I absolutely love it here.
Wow. And what made you make the move?
Well, so I went to school at Northwest Missouri State in Missouri, and we came out to Denver back in '98. Just because we thought there was going to be a lot of opportunity. It's a beautiful place. The city itself is incredible. You're right on the base of the mountains, so you can get right up there and go snowboarding or skiing or whatever your fancy is in terms of going downhill. Mine was snowboarding, but we came out here and it's been just a playground. It's a playground for entrepreneurship. It's a playground for just going out. You could literally vacation somewhere different every single day of your life in this state. It's absolutely stunning. Wow.
And so, you talked about it's a great place for entrepreneurship. And so I know you're quite the entrepreneur. That's why we have you on the show. What made you get into being an entrepreneur? How did that all start?
Oh, my gosh. I found entrepreneurship at an unlikely age. I was 12 years old. And, when you are 12 years old and you're looking for something to do for work, they usually, especially if you're in Nebraska, they send you out into the fields. And back then, the minimum wage was really low. I was making about $3.10 an hour, walking these fields, cutting down these weeds. And I went to my dad and I said, Dad, it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be cutting weeds for $3.10 an hour. We were getting up at 5 a.m. and then it was hot. It was just horrible. And he just told me, he said, you know what? That's fine. If you want to, you can quit, but you got to do something else. You got to go find something. So I came up with the idea. I don't know. It's not really my idea, but I thought, well, why don't I make a kit? So I made this kit and I made these stencils and I started going door to door offering to paint addresses on people's curbs for $5 a piece. So I had my spray cans, I had my stencils, and all of a sudden I was doing 5 curbs an hour at $5 a pop. So I went from making $3.10 an hour to making $25 an hour, which raised my dad's eyebrows a little bit, saying, well, maybe I should start doing this. And I said, you know what? I don't think I could ever work for anybody again. I can go make my own way. If I can make $25 an hour doing it my way versus $3.10 at somebody else's way, why wouldn't I do this for life?
Also, too, you weren't working in harsh conditions. You weren't working in fields. Like, it was probably very easy and very quick. So you found a solution to a problem.
Yeah, it was, and I worked my own hours, right? Like I could get up and I could do it when I wanted to, and I could not do it when I wanted to. So it was really nice to have that flexibility that every entrepreneur likes. Yeah, entrepreneurs might work more than 40 hours a week, but at least we can do it on our terms and the way that we want to do it.
We can work while we're on vacation.
Yes.
I'd rather work
Or
in a
or not.
body than work in a cubicle.
Yeah, I always think about that. I can even imagine so many people get up and they're not aligned with their purpose in life, right? What they really want to be doing. They're getting up, they're hitting the alarm clock off, they're eating breakfast, they're getting in a car, they're commuting to a job they don't want to be working at, then they're spending 8 hours doing something they don't want to be doing. Then they drive home, they have dinner, they go to bed, and they do it over and over again. And you get to the end of your life and you look back and go, man, why didn't I build my life around my own design? Why was I always building somebody else's life or going after somebody else's dreams
Yeah.
instead of my own? And that's
And
the
also, like,
joy of
what is it?
entrepreneurship.
What was it all for?
Yeah. And then you have
What's the purpose?
regret, right? And you don't want to get to the end of that journey and be looking at your family on your deathbed with regret in your eyes. You want to be
Yeah.
looking at them at the end of that journey with joy in your eyes, with, if I thought it, I tried it. I lived according to the way I wanted to be living. And that's
Yeah,
the beauty of entrepreneurship.
absolutely. And so after, that was your first entrepreneurial venture. After that, what did that lead into?
Oh, there's so many. Here's the thing. I tell people this all the time. I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. And I've done a lot of, so I've had 25 businesses over my lifetime, over my career so
Mm,
far. And, one of the biggest lessons that I learned though is back when I was, I'd say back in about 2000, the early 2000s, let's say, I was doing my businesses based on profits versus purpose.
mm,
I'd start something, I'd look at the profitability, I'd go, I'm going to make so much money, I'm going to get rich off of this, I'm going to, just bankroll on this. And the thing about it is when you're leading with profit instead of purpose, nothing feels right. Nothing
yeah,
feels aligned. So I always tell people, it's like, if you're going to start a business, don't do it that way. Start with your purpose. The money's going to come. If you're aligned with your purpose and you love what you do, the money's going to come. But you're going to get up every single day and you're going to be so happy. But I did it all wrong for a while. So there was a slew of things that I had done before I really realized that, hey, this isn't the way that I want to be living. And then reeled it back, aligned with purpose, and then started to do what I loved, how I loved doing it, when I loved doing it.
was there something that happened that made you realize, like, I need to shift this?
Yeah, there was. It was literally, it's the weirdest story ever, but it's not the weirdest, but there's weirder stories, but it's crazy in the fact that for me, we had a chain of pizza restaurants in Colorado. That was one of our sets of companies. I'm not a food guy. I'm not a restaurant guy. I wasn't the guy tossing the pizzas, at the pizza place. So the thing about it was though, is people have this rich dad, poor dad philosophy of, I'll buy a cash flow. I'll put a good person in place and I won't have to deal with it.
Mm,
And that's BS. It's
mm-hmm,
absolutely BS. There's no such
hmm.
thing as, I'm just going to put a shingle on the door and have somebody else take care of it for me, right? So we had about 13 of these restaurants going, and they did fine, they did well and such. But one of these stores one day, it ran out of pepperoni. Simple enough. But it was a Sunday afternoon, and I had already run myself pretty ragged because I had 13 companies going at one time. And it got to the point where somebody called and said, I need pepperoni in here now. And this isn't something with a franchise you can go down to Costco and get a box of pepperoni, right? You're sitting there going, you got to have a franchise spec pepperoni. And so I had to make this drive, which ended up being about a 3-hour round trip drive, to go get a box of pepperoni. And that's when I told myself, I kind of had a breakdown a little bit. I'd already
Yeah,
been running ragged, and all of a sudden I said, no more.
yeah,
And I had to go back and I had to unwind all those businesses that I didn't feel like were aligned with me,
mm,
that that weren't worth my Sunday afternoon driving 3 hours to
mm,
go get pepperoni for.
mm,
And
mm-hmm,
that was kind of the breaking point where I said, anything I do, it's got to check some boxes. I've got four
yeah,
check boxes in my life. And if something's going to come or an opportunity comes into my life, if it doesn't check those check boxes, it's out.
yeah, yeah. I want to talk to you about, how important is having a purpose?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it is number one. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the thing, is so many entrepreneurs want to go and start a business, right? There's so many people, or maybe they're sitting at the desk and they're afraid to. They don't know, what's that first step? How should I venture out? What do I need to do first? And I always tell people, number one, figure out what's important to you.
mm,
Figure out what your purpose is, what you should be doing. Do the check boxes. I've got my sacred check boxes where it's like, I want to do four things. I want to teach, I want to invest, I want to inspire, and I want to, there's something else, but I can't remember off the top of my head. That's how sacred they are. I can't even remember my fourth one off the top of my head.
It's
But
okay.
if the thing is if they don't check those check boxes, I don't do it. So if you don't have the alignment with purpose right out of the gates, then you're dead in the water. So you got to get that purpose. The next thing you got to do is you have got to make sure that you get your mindset right. So many people are so beaten up in life, and if you don't have the right mindset for it, it takes a lot to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You have got to have the right mindset, right?
I have this conversation all the time with people. It takes, it's a incredible person, and not because we're both entrepreneurs. It's because I know what it takes.
Mm,
It's an incredible person to be a successful entrepreneur, because the level of what you deal with and what you have to fix and shift and hear and figure out, most people cannot do it.
it's not easy,
No.
right? And if you don't have the right mindset going in, you're also dead in the water. Then I always tell
Hmm.
people you got to get your body right. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a grind. Like if you're not eating well, or if you're working so hard you're not eating well, if you're not exercising and taking care of that, you're not going to be at peak performance.
Yep.
And if you're not at peak performance, you're also setting yourself up to fail.
Hmm.
And then the third thing I tell people is you got to have your money right. So many people think I'm just going to put that shingle up on the wall and I'm going to open up for business and the money is going to flood in.
Hmm.
And that is such a mistake. They get 2 months in, 3 months in, 4 months in, and all of a sudden they're struggling financially and they think they're failing, but they're not really failing. They just don't have the financial fortitude to go that next step, to be a little bit
Right.
better, to get through those winters, that tough time. But man, once you put all those things together, that's when you can really start to build your life by your design, the life that you want to be living. But you got to have all those elements.
I also, to go the last part, the financial part of an entrepreneur is, the fun thing about being an entrepreneur and not an employee is that because you're an entrepreneur, you're able to create money wherever. And so if you're able to figure out how to get through those tough times that you were saying, you
Yeah.
can do it. And you can do that over and over and over again, because you're going to have tough times. That's for sure going to happen. And you're not going to be ready for some things going on. But if you believe in yourself enough and you bet on yourself, really, because most entrepreneur things, like, it's a trust fall, but you're trusting yourself to be able to figure it out.
100%. I mean,
Mhm.
because you're it. I mean, you're the CEO of your own life at that point, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
you're the decision maker. You are making and breaking whatever you're doing. And
That's
so
right.
you got to be lined up. And I always tell people too, because people say, well, I'm just going to quit my job and go do this. And I'm like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Make your job be your biggest funder in the beginning.
Hmm.
You know, keep that job, start as a side hustle, and then make that side hustle make you have to quit that job because
Mm.
you don't have any more time for that job anymore because you have so much money coming in over here. You don't need that job anymore. Think of
Hmm.
them not as the job that I have to go to, but the biggest funder of the creative space that you're starting to create that business. There's
Mm.
a lot of the use of the word create, but that's what we are as creators.
That's 1,000,000%. So back to you. So once you decided, like, you want to align with what brings you happiness, what's your purpose, what's your passion, what then did you move forward with?
Mm. Well, so I've always been a real estate guy by trade. So,
Mm.
my life has always revolved around real estate and I absolutely love it. And so, I'm an investor and I know that's one of my check boxes. Oh, the other one's travel. And that's why. See, there you go. So, two of the check boxes are traveling and investing. And for me, it's one of those things that I've been in real estate so long and I know the fundamentals so well that it made sense. So I've got a private equity fund now that we invest in short-term vacation rentals. Why short-term vacation rentals? Well, it fits well with the life I want to design for myself. So when I'm down in Costa Rica and I'm buying investment properties, I'm also traveling to beautiful places that I love. I can surf in the morning and I can go look at real estate in the afternoon and do my investing. Um, so that's one of the things. The other thing is just I'm kind of in phase three of my life where I feel like there's three phases. Phase one, you're trying to figure it out. I'm
Mm.
learning. I'm learning about who I am. I'm learning about what I need to do and how to do it, trying to be exceptional. Phase two, I start to master it. I get really good at it. I start to lock it in. I start to execute. I start to level up my game and get better and better in whatever I've chosen to do. But then there's phase three, where you've accumulated all this incredible knowledge,
Yeah.
all these incredible things. Phase 3 is where you take that and you pass it back down. You
Mm.
pass it back down to those folks in phase 1 to try to shorten their learning curves, to try to help them get from point A to point Z a lot quicker. Take a 5-year learning curve and help them do it in 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now. And I absolutely love getting up every single day and helping this next generation of entrepreneurs really be great.
Believing Before Seeing, a new bestseller by Candice Bar. Order your copy today.
You know, every entrepreneur I've ever talked to on the show, I've had the show for a long time. Everyone I've ever talked to, including myself, we've had a series of mentors or coaches throughout our career, throughout our life. And so I want to hear from you, how important are coaches to you, and who was one of your most influential and impactful coaches that you dealt with one-on-one?
Oh, wow. That's such a good question, but it's a big question because I still get coaches. I have coaching
Yeah,
now. I've got
I
2
still have a
coaches.
coach.
Yeah, I love having a coach. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and it's kind of like the second that you don't think you need a coach, you've got your ego getting in your way of your growth.
Yes.
And entrepreneurs, we're pretty stubborn as it is. We're pretty thick-headed in what we do and the way we do it. But the second that you quit checking your ego at the door is the second that you stop learning and the second
Mm.
you stop growing. And so, a few of the people that I'm working with right now that I really enjoy on my coaching journey, I work with a guy named Rory Vaden who works with some pretty large groups. He's an incredible person and such an intelligent person. I sit in a room with that guy, and I mean, he's probably 20 years younger than me, yet he sits there, and the knowledge that he's got and the information that he has is
Mhm.
priceless. So I
Mm.
love sitting in rooms with a guy like that. And I also, even coaches that I'm not working with directly, but I work with guys like Lewis Howes, and that group there, and the information that those guys provide me and the assistance that they provide me. I work a lot with their COO over there,
Mm.
Matt, and the information and the trade of knowledge that we have with one another is, again, it's priceless. So coaching, take it as much as you can get it. Find a good one. That's important to find a good one. But I guarantee you that every single coaching session that you do is going to be so valuable. It's going to cut so much off of your learning curve.
Yeah.
Significant. And if you
You
can
made
turn
a really
5
good
years into 2 years, do it.
you made a really good point, actually, and I love that point. You said that, these guys, they're maybe a bit younger than you, but you're still open to listening and knowledge from these people. It doesn't matter the age of the person. It matters what value and information they're bringing to you that you may not have thought of.
Well, 100%. And the other thing is that you got to remember that people say, "Oh, they're too young." But like I just sat in another workshop group that I'm a part of in Austin, and I met these 2 incredible people, both of them in their mid-20s, both of them very young. And you go, "Well, what do I have to gain from them?" But my gosh, when I sit down in the room with them and see what they're doing in technology now, stuff that maybe has passed me by. I mean, I've got a lot of knowledge, and they look at me and go, "Oh man, Rodman can help me so much over here." But I look at
Yeah,
them and go, "Wow, they've got so much over here that I don't have." And
yeah,
there's this symbiotic relationship that you can gain. Again, if you drop the ego and go, "I've got a lot of things that I can learn from this younger generation." And they have a lot to learn if they say, drop their egos and say, "Wow, I can really tap into the knowledge and the experience that this gentleman brings." So drop the ego, I guess, is the main lesson
mhm,
there, because there's
yes,
no room for ego in being an entrepreneur if you really want to be exceptional.
yeah, I love great. What was something when when you're first starting or even now, new ventures or whatever you're creating, and what was one of the first positive moments that you're like, oh wow, like either like a big sale or something went your way and like that it was cause for celebration and it made you think like I really do have something here.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because you're asking the guy who's just celebrates everything. I mean, the thing about life is it's such I mean, the blessings are every single day, right? And yeah, there's so many incredible things that happen. I catch myself often sitting in situations going, "How in the hell did I get here?" Or in a group of people who are exceptional human beings that have done so many incredible things, and I go, "Wow, how did I get in this group of people?" And I shake my head at that every single day. But then again, I think back to that's kind of what you open yourself up to in life. Like if you're
Mm.
opening yourself up, for an example, I produced a comedy special So I've got a production company, and I produced a comedy special with my best friend. His name's Josh Blue. Some people will know Josh because he won Last Comic Standing back in like about 2007, and then he got third place on America's Got Talent maybe 2 seasons ago. An exceptional human being. He has cerebral palsy, and all he does is get up and be awesome every single day, despite the hand that he was dealt, right? And he and I produced that, and we got invited to go to the Tonight Show. And so, of course, he performed. My dream was always to be on the Tonight Show. But of course, I'm going to date myself, but that's back in the Johnny Carson era. But I've got Josh, who then he's going on the Tonight Show, and he and I were backstage, and I'm standing in a group of people backstage, and there's Steve Martin's with us, and Marty Short's with us, and John Goodman's with us, and I just am sitting there around these legends that I grew up loving, even as a kid, like with my dad watching Steve Martin perform on Saturday Night Live and such, and I just think to myself, wow, how did I get here, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
those are the beautiful little celebrations that you need to have every step of the way. You just got to be in awe of what you've created, and then in awe of what it invites and what comes into your life off of what you've created.
I love that. I want to ask you too, especially you, almost everyone I talk to has some sort of something with this, but do you have a morning routine, and also do you have a nighttime routine?
Yeah, but I'm a little psychotic. You might want to not go my routines, but like I'll get started at 5 a.m. in the morning. I like
Yeah.
to get up early and go. And I tell myself I'll do 8 to 10 hours, but I just love what I do. So 8 to 10, even when I'm still working, it doesn't feel like I'm working, which is a great feeling. But yeah, I get up early. I've got a workout regimen. So during the day, I make sure I'm getting a minimum of 60 minutes. I did the 75 hard for a while, but I ended
Yeah,
up doing it. Yeah, I don't know if you know 75 hard, but I
I
did
know what it is.
75.
I know what it is.
And then I was like, okay, I nailed 75. So I'm going to do 76. I did 76, and I did 77. I ended up going for 537 days in a row on the hard 75, if you can believe that. Um,
Wow.
I was a little depressed when my streak ended because my back went out. I hurt myself, and
Oh,
my body couldn't go anymore. But I have a very, a regimented physical routine because
yeah.
I want to serve the people that I work with so well. And the best way to do that too is not only to be mentally fit, but to be physically fit for them and be, in good shape and health. But then at night, I do like to meditate. So
Mm,
I'll do breath work. I do a lot of meditation. I'll do a lot of visualization because, you got to take care of your mind too. Your mind works the best when you put it at peace. And entrepreneurs, we're like this. We're just going and going and going.
totally.
Life is zipping. There's no time. There's no time. There's no time. And when you do that, you lose track of a lot of what could be fantastic and great ideas. And so I make it a promise to myself that 9 o'clock hits. I'm laying in bed. I've got my meditation music going, or my meditation. I do a lot of guided meditation, or I'll do breath work. And I'm amazed with how it sets me up for success going into the next day.
I love it. That's actually really great. I love that because people talk about morning routines, but I like to talk about nighttime routines because I have a very specific nighttime routine that I do even when I travel, and I travel a lot, that I stick to. And I also have a morning routine as well. But nighttime routine for me is, if not as important, if not more important than the morning routine.
What's yours?
Nighttime?
Yeah.
Nighttime routine is I have to have my uh what is the, not air purifier, maybe it is air, when the water disperses from the, what is that called?
Is it like a dehumidifier or something, or
Thank you. I have to
Okay.
have my dehumidifier on. That has to happen. And I
Yeah.
have a Kagan water machine. The Kagan water machine has buttons specifically for skin. So I put that water in that machine. I have ylang oil that has to go on the pillows because that helps you sleep a lot. That calms you down.
Yeah.
I have
Like a spray.
I have an oil, and I just put it right on the pillowcase.
Yeah.
I have to have my face wash. That whole system is like a 7-step system. Then this very specific oil that I like for my hands, and there's just certain sheets
and things that have to be a certain way for my like most comfortable, optimal sleeping ever. I love sleeping. So optimal sleeping ever. And I also listen to meditation, guided meditation, something cool, a lot of Abraham Hicks, just to calm down and calm the mind and have the best sleep possible.
Self-care and sleep is
Yeah.
so important. It is
Oh,
so
yes.
important. And
Oh,
it's so
yes.
difficult. Entrepreneurs have a hard time shutting their brains down. Like we're always going upstairs, constantly grinding it out. And so, when you think about that sleep, how important it is, when you get like if I get less than 7 hours of sleep, I'm
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
My whole day is shot.
Yeah. I could be on with you all day. We'll probably have you back on, but I asked two questions actually, the same questions from everybody. And the first question I'm going to ask you is there a verse or a book or a scripture that when you're not having the best day, you have to get yourself in a better mindset, that you kind of keep in the forefront of your mind to keep you going and keep you positive and keep you going another day with what you're doing?
Yeah, and it's something. It's not, and I'm a very avid reader, so I read a lot of books. There's a lot of books. One of the most influential books in my life was The Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer, who was an amazing
Mm.
man. It was one of those that my whole life is structured around that book that I was lucky enough to have put in my hands when I was 14.
Mm.
But there was an exercise that just recently we went through that really has helped me, and it's almost a little bit of self-talk, right? And when you're talking to yourself, which is some of the most important stuff that you do, you want to be able to have something. And I have somewhat of I guess you could call it almost a little bit of a mantra, and people can fill it in for how they want. But when I'm thinking about myself, I always say that I am a fearless, authentic, purpose-driven leader, right?
Mm.
And so anytime that I'm feeling bad or I'm a little bit down or things aren't going my way, it's always a reminder. I'll read that to myself just to remind myself of who I am and what's really important. Those little moments of those pain points, those are going to pass. Those are going to go away. Those are going to get better. But
Mm.
sometimes it's nice to give yourself that reminder of who you are
Yeah, that's
in that
beautiful. I love
moment.
that. Thank you for that. The
Yeah, of
next
course.
question I ask everyone is, as you're coming up and you're doing well financially, what was one of the first things you were able to get for yourself that you may have wanted maybe when you were younger and never thought it could actually be a reality? And what was that? And how did you celebrate that?
Well, I'm still celebrating those wins every single day. And I grew up with not a lot of money. My family didn't have a lot of money. We scraped to get by. And I
Yeah.
think some of the best entrepreneurs in life are those who have grown up on that path. They haven't been the people who have had money given to them.
I don't know anyone, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
No,
I've never interviewed or talked to anyone that came from money that did very well independently.
yeah,
Do you?
no. Most of the entrepreneurs that I come across are self-made,
Yeah.
and it's because they knew what it was like to lack. They knew
Yeah.
what it was like to scrape.
Yes.
And they wanted to make those changes. They knew what it was like to work also, right? Because so many entrepreneurs, or I shouldn't say entrepreneurs, a lot of people think they want a lot, but they don't want to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's that get rich quick or that whatever it might be. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like I always say, no, it's about getting rich slow. It can come quick, but don't go into that mentality of if you're creating anything in value, it takes time, right?
Yeah.
And so every single thing that I've got in life, and I've had people reach out to me and say, well, you've always been blessed. But they don't see I work for all this.
And
Everything that I have, I work
my answer to that would be like, I'm glad it looks that way.
yeah. Yeah, I know. It's kind of like, or people that say, "Oh, you're successful at everything you do." Well, bullshit, right? That's not true.
Yeah.
We fall on our faces 80% of the time, but
Mhm.
we're good enough to learn from it, dust ourselves up, get back in the game, and go big here. And that's
1,000,000%.
the biggest difference, right?
Mhm.
So all this stuff, whether it be a car or a house or whatever, quite honestly, none of that stuff means jack.
Yeah.
In 100 years, somebody else is going to be living in this house. That car's not going to exist. These
Yes.
furniture and all this stuff behind me is going to be in some kind of an antique store that somebody else is going to be bargain
Right.
shopping for.
Right. Right.
It's not going to matter. And so for me, the greatest thing in life is just these experiences on this journey and
Mm.
those people that I've been able to help along the way, and those lives that I've been able to touch. That's where the real rejoicing comes in. That's when I celebrate, is when I
Mm.
see a soul that I've been able to reach in and have a little part of their success or help them reduce their learning curve and help them find that greatness.
Yeah.
That's what I love to celebrate.
I love that. That's a great answer. That's one of the most authentic answers I've gotten. The answers are actually always different. It's not always material answers, but that's a great answer. Again, we will have you back on, but please let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, my website is gorodman.com. It's like GoDaddy, but Go Rodman. You can find it really easy. Off of there, you can connect with me on social media. You can find my podcast. I've got a new book coming out called The Outlier Mindset. It's the
Mhm.
7 tenets of being an outlier and finding greatness. That's coming out here in the next month. So go to the website. You can find all that. And I'd love to connect with you.
Thank you again for taking the time and being with us. Thank you, everyone. And please do follow him. Find him, follow him on social media. Go to his website. He's amazing. If you like this interview, you're going to love more to come for sure. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. And we will see you all again next week. Bye, everybody.